Green Dragon Fest was incredible. It was the most fun weekend, and thanks to Baron DeRob from Dungeon Masterpiece for planning the whole thing. It was this gathering, like way smaller than a con. 40-some people and 11 game masters and just nonstop D&D and hanging out talking about gaming and game design. It was fantastic. It was at this cool location in Tennessee called Ancient Lore Village, which looks like a page out of the Shire, these cool little Hobbit-style homes. It was fantastic. It was just a great weekend. But I'm not here to just brag about meeting these cool YouTubers and game designers. I have thoughts, ideas on what it takes to be great in our hobby. And I don't mean like popular or famous. I mean really good at your craft. Like be able to give your players a great experience, and how do you become better as a game master? Good is the enemy of great. That's a quote from Jonathan Ive, which is actually a redesign of a quote by John D. Rockefeller. However, good is the enemy of great stands in stark contrast with another quote by Winston Churchill. Perfection is the enemy of progress. So which is it? Is it the complacency of being good? Like, I'm good enough at this. I don't need to fix what's not broken, so I'm not going to try harder because trying harder might mess things up. I just happy being good. The idea of being great is beyond me. Or is it the other way around? Is it the fear of failure? I'm not going to be perfect when I try this. It's not going to be great the first time, so I'm not going to try. I don't have the right tools, or I don't have the right abilities to try that new thing. Because if I try, it's going to be bad. It's not going to be perfect right away. So which is it?
Both. Both is good.
Okay, so a duality, like two sides of the same coin. But before we get into that, let's talk about Green Dragon Fest. And my first game was with House DM, and he did a fantastic job of giving meaningful choices, which is really hard to do in a one-shot because you have such a short amount of time to tell your story. But House did a great job at it, and the players in that game did a really good job of role-playing. There wasn't a lot of voice acting, but everybody talked and thought from their player's perspective, which is really the most important part of role-playing. And I really enjoyed that game. In fact, it was a really good fit for me because House's style is very similar to my own. And watching House DM that style and seeing how the players responded and seeing how well the whole game went was very validating. It made me feel good about my DM style because I could kind of see myself in House and his style. So my next game was 5th edition D&D with Ted from Nerd Immersion. And Ted ran a very tight and efficient 5th edition game. Like, he really understands the rules of 5e and was able to help players when they weren't sure about their abilities, but at the same time just kept the pace of the game moving quickly, which is sometimes hard to do in a game that has more crunch like 5e, like comparing 5e to Shadowdark, for say. 5th edition has more crunch and often can get bogged down in technicalities. Ted didn't let that happen. He was constantly moving with the story, and we played a very fast-paced and, like I said, efficient version of 5th edition, which was impressive. And if, to be honest, I kind of compared myself a little bit to Ted because I am not that guy. Being a rules lawyer or a referee is not my strong suit as a DM. I'm a little faster and looser with the rules, and I focus more on storytelling and dramatic pacing as opposed to combat tactical pacing. But Ted did a great job of that. And like I said, it was easy to kind of compare myself and be like, maybe I should be more like that. Maybe I should like focus more on the rules than I do. And that's the kind of thing that can get in our head and give us insecurities if we let them, right? So like we can find these things that we see other people do well, you know, whether it's Matt Mercer or whoever we watch run a game online, and we can kind of compare ourselves to those people and think, well, I can never be that good. And there's this whole kind of bugaboo in the community over the last 6 or 7 years of the Matt Mercer effect, right? That comparison is kind of that thief of joy. You compare yourself to other people that you see performing online, and you start to doubt your own abilities. And I don't find that to be really useful in any way. Like, our brains are wired to look for inconsistencies. Our brains are wired to look for the things that are different. And that's a way to protect ourselves. Our brains are designed to keep us alive. They've been keeping humans alive on the planet for a really long time. And it's important for us to not give in to that survival mechanism to the point of anxiety. And that's something that a lot of people can struggle with, is when you see somebody do something well that you're not good at, you can start to have your own anxiety about it. So while we're talking about struggles, let's go ahead and make our sacrifices to the algorithm. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. All hail the algorithm. And then I played a game of Viking Death Squad with Brandon, Hank, Rune Hammer. The guy has like 6 names. Well, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Let's call him Hank. So Hank does an awesome job of really just having fun at the table and bringing exciting energy into the room and like drawing the role play out of you. He's just a really fantastic dungeon master in that way. And with his game, he did this cool thing where we got to like design our weapons and gear on the fly. So we just described our character. Like I said, I had a bionic eye, and Hank's like, all right, write a bionic eye down on your gear sheet. And then I had this ghost parasitic entity of my brother. It was just crazy how my character evolved in the matter of just a few rounds of gameplay as I role-played my character, and Hanks would pause and then describe the game mechanics for whatever gear I had on my character. It was this really like exciting way to kind of build the character on the fly in the middle of the game. But one of the things I noticed about that was, while that was fun and exciting, there was a trade-off as we had to remember the rules that we just made up. So Hank would have to remember the rule that he made up for that mechanic for that person's gear or weapon, right? So there was that pause sometimes. That was the counterbalance, right? You had the exciting energy of designing these characters on the fly in the game, but the counterbalance was you had to like pause and try to remember, what did we just say that thing did? Like mechanic wise. But it got me thinking, right? Like as a game master, you can't do everything at a top tier level. There's so many moving parts as a game master that you can't do it all in every session. So Hank was using some experimental mechanics for his game and making up rules on the fly. And that's a trade-off, right? You're not going to be able to run a game that was as efficient as Ted's while you're making up rules on the fly like Hank was doing. I also got to play Easy D6 with DM Scotty. And the best way I can describe Scotty is he's like cool. Like cool AF. Like just so like smooth and easygoing, but at the same time hilarious. Like the guy's constantly laughing. It was so much fun to play in his game, and his game was pretty flawless. So again, it would be easy for me to compare myself to Scotty and be like, why is my game not as cool as his, right? That could be another opportunity for those insecurities to bubble up like they can, right? However, I realized DM Scotty designed his own game. He built a game for his specific play style. And that way he is as comfortable as he can be because it's his game, or at least that was my perception of it. And of course, that just encouraged me even more to design my own game, which is something that I've been tooling around with. But my point is, and understand, I'm not trying to criticize any of these DMs. They were all fantastic. They were all great in their own way. So what I'm doing here is just saying, like, as a way to learn from them, what are their strengths and what did I really enjoy about the game, and how does that compare to what I do? Not to like say that I'm better than them in any way. It's more a matter of I'm trying to learn more about myself by watching them. But when we do that, remember that tendency for our brains to look for what's wrong in a situation. When we do that comparison, it's important not to do it in a way that's self-defeating or self-critical. That's what's important about learning from others, is that we see the things we like in them and think about how we can emulate them, not be hard on ourselves for not being as good as them. As a DM, you are many things. You are a world builder, a storyteller, a referee, an actor, a director, a teacher, and an improv artist. It takes the synergy of all of these skills to be a really great dungeon master, and there's no way to be great at each and every one of these all at the same time. And once you recognize your strengths, you can build on those and grow outward from there. So first of all, you want to acknowledge those barriers we talked about at the beginning, right? That two-sided coin, that duality of complacency of being good enough, preventing you from trying new things, and the fear of not being perfect, preventing you from learning new things, right? You want to acknowledge those barriers and be aware of them. Not that you're ever going to not feel those things. The point is, you feel those things and then acknowledge them for the barriers that they are and find ways to get past those barriers. So how would I suggest you do that? Well, take that list, the list that we just went over. World builder, storyteller, referee, actor, director, teacher, improv artist. Take that list and pick the one that you are most confident in. What are you really good at? And focus on that as your strength. Let that be the thing that you are good enough at for now. And rely on that strength and build your game sessions around that core ability. Then pick another thing off the list that you want to get better at, that you want to expand and grow in. And so you rely on the first one as your strength while you're expanding and growing the second one. So now you have a two-pronged approach of leaning on the thing that you're really good at while also trying something new and getting better at a secondary skill set. And then over time, once you're good at those two things, then you can expand into something else. So that's my suggestion. So let me know in the comments what you think. I'm formulating the idea of taking each of these 7 skill sets and doing an individual video on each one. Let me know in the comments below what you do to push past those fears of not being good enough. What do you do to encourage yourself to try new things and expand your horizon? How do you grow as a game master? Thanks again for visiting the Dire Den, and I'll see you next time.